Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. That address is in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a true landmark watch. This is a Series 3 FP Journe Tourbillon Remontoire. It is a constant force tourbillon, and it is from the first 3 series of such watches, being one of the first 100 made. So it's 38 millimeters in rose gold, in thickness 9.4 millimeters, from lug tip to lug tip 44.8 millimeters, with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throwing it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, it's a wonderful match. You could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 13 centimeters circumference, and it fits easily underneath the cuff. This was the first model launched by FP Journe back in 1999, and the original Tourbillon Remontoire went through 4 series, plus a 5th series known as the Ruthenium, which was the only example in 40 millimeters. This uses the now discontinued brass movement Tourbillon Remontoire architecture design, Eleanor case manufacture, 38 millimeter case size, and a couple of features on the reverse side that are distinctive of these early models, such as the exceptionally shallow engraving. And of course, we have a feature that was later discontinued, which is a stamping on the case revealing the year in which the case itself was made. This one was made in 2000. Now, taking a look at the dial side of the watch, you can see that the lugs are blended, integrated Calatrava style into the case band. Everything's polished. The mid case is defined by the overlapping lip of the case back and the bezel. The bezel is domed. The crown is double dimple and then knurled around its edge, distinctive feature of FP Journe crown design. The strap is large rectangular scale alligator leather, black, high gloss, monotone stitch, folded edge, and it is large rectangular scale on the top, small round scale gator on the bottom. So you can see this is a much newer Journe factory strap, brand new and unmarred. Gator on both sides is there to make the strap last longer. It's more expensive, but this watch is worth it. Now you can see we also have a rose gold pin buckle to match, and then we have the most modern strap architecture, which includes pull tab spring bars to easily remove the strap from the case without tools. We also have curved spring bars. You can see the lugs are actually drilled relatively close to the case. The curved spring bar allows the strap to move unimpeded despite being relatively close to the case flank. Now on the dial, you can see we have a gold base, and then we have polished steel surrounding the hours and minutes. You can see it's been black polished. We have dial side bolts, and critically here you can see these are the big bolts. If you want to see what the little bolts look like, check out a Series 4 Tourbillon Remontoire. The first 3 series featured the big bolts. The very first, the Souscription, featured a count out of the 20, which were manufactured on a subscription basis, and that count up to 20 is actually written on the dial right next to the power reserve. It'll tell you your series number out of 20. The second series would have been exactly like the first, but you wouldn't have had the count out of a series of 20, and you would have had a rounded cock for the Remontoire. So here we have flat, which means you're going to have either a Series 3, Series 4, or Ruthenium. You can see this isn't a Ruthenium, and the Series 4 featured tiny bolts. They're very small. They're more like the bolts holding the bezel, framing the hours and the minutes. So you can see this is a Series 3 here. You can also see that the watch features an open dial side tourbillon, which is a 1-minute tourbillon. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. Let's see how close I can get without corrupting the focus here. You can see it is filigree or wire style, and that it's free sprung for durability, and it has variable polar moment bolts on the balance to change its polar moment or turning force, and thus allow adjustment of rate. Not only is it free sprung, but it also features an overcoil hairspring, so in any position, the hairspring has a more centered mass than a flat hairspring, and it will breathe or develop concentrically and evenly, which helps the watch keep excellent time in any position. The precision of this watch is more a function of the free-sprung architecture, precise adjustment, the overcoil hairspring, and the Remontoire than it is of the tourbillon function itself. The Remontoire, not as visible on these early watches as it would be on later models. It uses a linear spring to release 1 second's worth of energy from the mainspring barrel to the escapement every second. So the watch has a manual wind 42-hour power reserve for the first 28 hours. This jumping motion will be evident atop the Remontoire, and that will mean that you have constant amplitude of the balance and constant force to the escapement. And that, along with the adjustment and the overcoil, really are at the heart of why this watch tells time so well. The combination of a remontoir with a tourbillon was a world premiere. FP Journe first explored that back in the early 90s with his tourbillon remontoir prototype, and then put it into series production in 1999 with the tourbillon remontoir souscription. Now, on the reverse side of the case, you can see some things that are no longer evident in FP Journe watches. We'll start from the outside and work our way in. So from 1999 through 2005, you would have had the case's year of manufacture stamped on the reverse side next to the series number, and you can see 00 is the year this case was made. You could see that the Tourbillon Souverain script, and that is the proper name of the watch. It's often called the Tourbillon Remontoir, but it is the Tourbillon Souverain, and it has a very, very shallow engraving. And this shallow engraving is characteristic of the earliest tourbillon and resonance watches. Now you can see this one's been back to the factory for subsequent service because it has the Holt head screws holding the case on, but everything else is old school. As you can see, it features the maker's mark of Eleanor, and both Swiss and French hallmarks, because right up until 2008, Journe watches used cases made outside of Paris by Eleanor, a case supplier that he'd used back to his pocket watch days. And in 2008, he bought Eleanor, moved it to Geneva, it became Boîtier de Genève, it became his case factory. Another feature that's important to call out is the fact that this is a brass movement watch, and that was discontinued midway through the 2004 model year. While gold is more expensive as a commodity and more valuable on that basis, brass movements, which are rhodium plated, that's why they're silver, are more valuable as collectibles because they are scarcer. You can also see the naming rubric that FP Journe coined on his initial watch. This is caliber 1498, which means in diameter it is 14 French lignes across. One ligne is roughly 2¼ millimeters, and then 98 is the year he started work on the movement, so it came to market in 1999. That makes perfect sense. And then you could see Tourbillon Remontoir d'Égalité, that's exactly what it is, and 25 joules, which is what it has. You can also see there's a handsome engine turning on the dial side of the base plate, visible just below the balance, and the bridge, or the half bridge for the tourbillon, is continuously rounded and black polished. These watches are not perfectly finished, but unlike later FP Journe watches, they are more visibly hand-finished, whereas finishing has been more and more mechanized as the company has grown, and perceived quality has improved. That is, there are fewer flaws in the finishing. These older watches are more hand-finished with more visible flaws at close range, and collectors seem to prefer that as it's a tangible sign that a human being handled the watch before you received it. 30 meters water-resistant back in 2000. I would not test the theory today. This one is for fun, high, and dry. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.